I coach engineering and science leaders, and there's a question that comes up almost every single session, worded almost exactly the same way every time. Why doesn't anyone know how good my work actually is? Why did the market miss us? Why do I keep getting passed over for people who honestly aren't as sharp as I am? And if you ever had a thought like that, even quietly, even just once at 11 p.m. scrolling LinkedIn, this video is for you. I'm not going to tell you to post more. I'm not going to tell you to build your own personal brand. Most of that advice feels shallow, and it's why smart, rigorous people roll their eyes and tune out. What I want to walk through today is actually how visibility works, the mechanics underneath it, and a handful of moves that get you seen without turning you into someone you don't recognize. Let's get into it. Part 1, why this even happens. Before any tactic matters, you need to understand one uncomfortable thing. Good work does not surface itself. We'd like to believe in a clean meritocracy, that the best solution, the best paper, the best product just rises on its own because it is correct. But nobody is running that evaluation. Every promotion, every partnership, every investment, every speaking invite, somebody made a decision, usually fast, usually from a shortlist they already had in their head before you ever entered the room. And that's the pattern. Not the work wasn't good enough. The work was invisible to the decision. So the real question isn't how do I get better? Most of you watching this are already good. The real question is how do I stop being a rounding error in someone else's shortlist? Part 2, getting the objection out of the way. I know what a lot of you are already thinking, because I hear it every week. I don't want to be visible for visibility's sake. That feels hollow. Good instinct. Hollow visibility doesn't exist. And it's usually the reason the whole topic feels gross to technical people. But here's the refrain. Visibility isn't about announcing how great you are. It's about closing the gap between the problem is solved and the people with that problem know it is solved. That's not ego. That's just distribution for you instead of for a product. My work should speak for itself. It can't. Speaking requires an audience, and your audience has to 1, know you exist, 2, understand what you did, and 3, have the context to know why it matters. Miss any one of those 3, and brilliant work sits in a folder nobody opens. The people who can technically evaluate you are a tiny slice of a market, and while you wait for that slice to notice, everyone else has already formed an opinion without you. I don't want to be on a podium, and you don't have to. Nothing I'm about to walk you through requires a stage or a slogan. It requires being findable and being remembered. 2 very different things from self-promotion. And one more thing worth naming. You are already being perceived. Your Slack tone, which meetings you show up, what you choose to work on, that's a signal whether you are managing it or not. The only real choice is whether it's a random one or intentional. Part 3, the concept that changes how you think about this. Here's a mental model I give every client because once it clicks, the tactics stop feeling optional. Call it your recognition ratio. Everyone's outcomes, the awards, the inbound offers, the hey, someone mentioned your name in a meeting moment, come out of a pool of exposure events. A talk you gave, a thread you commented on, a person you helped for 20 minutes. Some tiny fraction of those events converted to something that actually moves your career forward. Most people never measure this ratio. So when nothing converts, they conclude, I'm just not the type of person this happens to. And that's almost never true. What's actually true is you haven't generated enough exposure events to know your real conversion rate. This reframes the whole problem. You are not broken. You are undersampled. And the fix for being undersampled isn't confidence. It's just more deliberate reps. Part 4, where to actually spend your effort. Once that clicks, here's where the highest leverage effort goes, roughly in order. First, teach what you already know. Not a polished keynote, a messy internal talk, a lunch and learn, a breakdown of a bug you spent 3 days chasing. People don't bond with your polish, they bond with your process. This is also the lowest friction way to be visible because nobody experiences it as a self-promotion. it reads as a generosity. Second, have more conversations, specifically with people who are already connected. One good conversation with someone central to a network travels further than 100 posts into the void. Go in with something to offer, a resource, an intro, a solved problem, not just an ask. Reciprocity compounds, and it compounds slowly, which is exactly why almost nobody sticks with it long enough to see it work. Third, put yourself physically in the room. Conferences, working groups, cross-team syncs you're not required to attend. There's no algorithm to game here, just presence. The unglamorous truth is that half of being remembered is simply being in the room often enough that your face becomes familiar before anyone is evaluating your work at all. Fourth, let something about you be distinct. A specific way you frame the problems, a phrase you're known for, a niche you clearly staked out instead of a vague, I do a bit of everything. Human memory deletes the average and keeps the specific. So vague competence, ironically, is what makes people forgettable. None of these four require a podium. All four, though, require repetition. Part 5, the framework to take with you. Here's how I want you to hold all of this. Otherwise, it feels just a to-do list. Stage 1 is intentional foundation. You stop letting your visibility happen by accident and you get honest about actually what you want to be known for. Stage 2 is the unscalable stage. The informal talks, the one-on-one conversations, the showing up. This part is slow, it's manual, and it will feel disproportionate to the payoff at first. That's normal. This is where your recognition ratio gets built one exposure event at a time. Stage 3 is compounding. Once enough people have a real reference point for you, recognition starts arriving without you initiating it. Someone mentions your name in a room you're not in. That's an actual goal, not fame. Just being the name that surfaces when your specific problem comes up. So, if you take one thing from this video, the barrier was never that your work wasn't good enough. Is that nobody outside of a very small circle had context to see it. Closing that gap isn't self-promotion. It's just making sure the value you already created can actually reach the people who need it. Start with one conversation this week. That's generally enough to begin. And if you like any of this content, click below to subscribe or schedule a discovery session to find out what's bugging you.